Hiya, so I'm going to try and do a video on sort of, I don't know how to properly describe it yet, but it's kind of like food being a way, like the only thing I could find have a break with. Food being like my only thing left that I could use to have a break. This is, I think I'm bit more further on nowadays than I was there before, but this is kind of basically talking about how I used to view food and how I kind of got myself in an awkward situation with it. So we'll see how this goes. So obviously we've got the washing machine on the go, and I might pause it if this spin cycle gets too much. But I'm also going to chop some onions. So it's Sunday evening, so I'm going to chop up as many onions as I can. I'm going to freeze them in a little bag over for the week. This has been a little while since I've done that. I normally did it, I used to do it ages ago when the kiddies were small. I'd kind of got out of the habit of doing it, but I think it was ever such a useful thing to do, so I'm just going to redo it again because that'll just save me time during the week. So, right, that's the ramble about onions done. So I'm going to be looking over here at my piece of paper. So long time ago I did a lot of research about everything. So every question I had about my life, I just researched it all on Google and had a look and scoured the internet to find other people that had had similar problems that I did, and all that kind of stuff. And ages ago I found a piece of writing done by somebody who said that they had that they experienced basically a also I've got a pot of water here just to dip my onions in so they don't make my eyes hurt. Yeah, basically they said that it was like sometimes women can find, and this is only because it's sort of women and mothers and all that kind of stuff, women can find that the only thing that they have left that they can have as any form of break is sweets and chocolate. And I remember thinking, yeah, I think that's exactly me. I've got a situation where, you know, this is me then. Obviously I'm a bit further on now, but that was me then. I found that pretty much the only thing I could have as a break was food. So I've talked about why. So I've got I've written here why. So it boosts it. You know, food is a really useful tool for that because it boosts you up. I can eat it while standing up, in terms of if I don't have any second left, I've got no way to even sit down or anything like that. I can eat it while standing up, so it's an immediate boost. It calms me, so it can numb everything, so it's a lot easier and a lot quicker. It's a very effective tool at that. It replaces a break, so I would struggle finding a break time, whereas food could give me that instant break that I was craving. If I'm interrupted, then I can pause eating and do the job and then continue eating after. So for example, this would be, what sort of food would I have eaten then? Maybe biscuits, like a packet of biscuits. So if I'm eating some biscuits, I can stop. Let's say for example, child needs a drink, child tipped something over, child climbed to the top of the house, etc, etc. I can then stop that break I'm trying to have, do the thing I need to do, and the thing will be waiting there afterwards. So for example, other things would be trickier, like, you know, if you're knitting and you're in the middle of the row, you can't just stop halfway along and just leave it mid-row, because it's very tricky, then you end up losing your stitches and such. So food doesn't do that. You can stop it and then pick it up straight away after. It represents an input, so I can eat new items. So when I used to get very bored, it's a different kind of bored, I suppose, because you're not really bored. Let's put the rubbish in the onions that I'm supposed to be freezing. going to happen at some point when it put the wrong thing in the wrong thing. Yeah, it's not like I've yeah, so it represents input, so I can eat new items. So just going to quickly give my hands a wash, come back in there and get this rinsed out. Get my board back to being wet. Yeah, it represents input, so like a new item. So for example, yeah, when you're bored, and it's not necessarily that you're bored because there was always something to do as an adult, but sometimes you want input in, like you just feel like you just never, you know, you haven't done anything exciting for ages, you just get like the drudgery and that sort of thing. So for example, it would be like new biscuits, or new, you know, a new type of crisp, or, you know, something, you know, and a way of providing yourself some form of input in, some form of interest, without having to try and take some time out, or like, you know, getting a babysitter or any of those things. It represented familiarity, so I can alleviate loneliness as I can make a connection with a memory with food. So it would become a way of, say for example, I would be eating the same biscuits as my grandma used to have, or eat the same biscuits as my mum used to eat, or maybe even my mum would have given me some biscuits that I could eat, and then I was eating them and I could remember her giving them to me, or you know, and those types of things. Maybe a food I ate at school that I really enjoyed, that it allows you to remember what it was like at that time. So I've said here, food doesn't matter if it gets taken from me, as I can always have more of it. In terms of, like, you know how it sometimes kiddies come up and they say, oh, I can have a piece of that, and sometimes, yeah, I know you should always be good and like say no, that's mummy's or whatever, but the thing is sometimes you're just too tired, sometimes you can't be bothered, sometimes you're exhausted, sometimes you just can't, sometimes you're so fed up of life that you just like, yeah, take all of it. I don't need any of it, you know. Even mid sandwich, you mid bite of something and they want it, you're just like, yeah, have it. And so food is something that I could take a break, and it wouldn't matter if they came along and wanted to eat what I was eating, because there was always another bit. I would often make sure that if I was eating something in front of them, there was more than one of it, you know. It would be a family pack chocolate, or it would be family size crisps, or it would be something that was loads of it, because if it wasn't loads of it, then I would keep it and I would try and eat it secretly, so that I didn't have to experience the whole you know, there's no more of this. So yeah, if I've got here, if I'm by myself, it won't be taken. If I'm by myself, it won't be taken away from me. That's probably to do with yeah, if I'm eating it secretly, then it won't be taken away from me. Food is. I've also got here that it used to speed up my relaxation, so I would want to relax, and it would sort of like speed that up. So just in case I would have a moment to relax, and just in case that it was interrupted, the food used to really speed up that relaxation. So even if I'd had 5 to 10 minutes of break time, I would feel like I'd had a bit more, because the food seemed to really boost up the relaxation that I was experiencing. I've also got food is represented as a break, like all the Kit Kats, like Kit Kat, take a break, have a Kit Kat type of thing. I can't remember what it is exactly. And I remembered as well, of course, there's the time out bar, which is actually termed time out, so like having some time out. So there's a lot surrounding crisps and chocolate, especially chocolate really, whereby if you eat it, then it's going to have a break, you know, it's a way of you having a break. So there's probably a lot of you know, advertising push in that sort of thing, whereby you do naturally think that that's probably a good idea. If you do want a break, you should probably have some chocolate while you're having a break. You should probably have some biscuits, you know, while you're having a break. I felt like it was something else, but anyway, I'll spin it round. Okay, so I've got here, as a parent, I can have a break with my children. My alarm gone off at 9 o'clock, so that's just my little alarm there, just to let me know that ideally I'm in bed, but I'm doing onions, so I think as long as I'm in bed by about an hour's time, I should be relatively safe. So as a parent, I can have a break with my children by feeding them. So we would be sitting down with crisps and chocolate, and they're enjoying it, and so I'm getting, and so am I, so I'm getting a break. So therefore kind of feeding your children so that they're at least happy just for a little bit, and we're all eating together, so that it means that they're eating what they're eating and I'm eating what I'm eating, and that just kind of allows a break to happen without having to kind of do anything else really, because sometimes you're just so tired. Sometimes, you know, you just don't want to do anything. Sometimes you just want a way out, and the food can often be that way out that you desire. So I've got here, I would eat instead of knitting or jigsaw puzzles or like playing games on my phone or anything like that, as it would be far easier mentally to have my food taken away than anything else taken away from me. Food was relinquishable, so I didn't get upset about it not being there anymore, especially if I had enough, especially if I had got enough for the children to have theirs at the same time. Sometimes eating theirs if they had their fill, you know, that bit where you've bought like bought them some chocolate, but I'd end up buying them quite a lot of chocolate all at the same time, like maybe multi-packs of things, and you know, just to try and give them as much as possible. Which sounds pretty bad, you know, talking about it like that, but that's how I coped. So, you know, you can never really be sad about yourself the way you cope. I mean, it's different now, so. But yeah, sometimes, yeah, so I think that's the bit I was trying to explain about this, I felt I hadn't quite missing, where it's worse if, it's far worse if someone is not, it's far worse to not ask for any help and carry on doing it, as it is to ask for help and get a no. And I think food was a way of me not having to even broach that subject. You know, it says I didn't feel like I could have a bath or go for a walk, or all of those classic ways in which they say, well, instead of eating, why not do these things? Why not paint your nails, they say. Why not have a bath? Why not go for a walk? Go to yoga class? All of these different types of things that when you're knee deep in children and your mental health is not very strong, and you don't even know kind of what your name is anymore, those things are not an option to you. I mean, they probably are an option, but you don't feel like they are an option. So food at that point is a great way of support. It says here, I've got here now eyes, so there's things I do now to help myself, and they're not have a bath, they're not go for a walk, they're not these things. They are things like calming myself by doing my fingers where I walk and I tap each finger in turn. You sort of do this thing where you breathe in and you touch each finger in turn with your thumb. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 as I'm walking along. That's quite a useful thing, just to keep myself calm and steady. But I don't, and I eat well. I don't do any of the other things because they just never seem to kind of hold any stove for me. I'm sure things will change, but right now they still feel a little bit shallow and kind of not really getting where I was. I didn't have enough energy to say no, so I chose things that didn't matter if I didn't get it. So I didn't, yeah, sometimes I just wouldn't have the energy to say no to my children, so I just, as I said before, it wouldn't matter if I didn't get what I was after. It took far more energy and time to arrange to take 10 minutes out, and then sometimes it would not turn out how I planned. So it took more, yeah, for far more energy and time to arrange that. Say, for example, instead of eating, I should really have taken 10 minutes out. But in order to get a proper 10 minutes out, whereby I'm actually by myself and actually in my own space and actually having some time out, instead of being aware that I was about to be interrupted at a moment's notice, it took far more energy and effort. And sometimes I didn't feel like I had enough time, I didn't have any time left to do that. So when you're at your wit's end and you're like, I need time out right now, the concept that time out might happen 2 weeks away, it's not going to help you in any way, shape or form. It's going to make it worse. You feel awfully trapped. So I sort of didn't even let myself think that I was ever going to have any break, to kind of help myself just kind of keep going. I remember trying desperately to explain to my partner that on Sundays he should just, because he used to go and see his mum on a Sunday, and he would want me to come along. And I remember desperately just kind of saying, I couldn't really quite voice the thing whereby I needed to say that I need some time out. I need to use this opportunity, because this is an opportunity once a week that I can have some time to myself. I needed to say to him, no, I cannot come with you on those Sundays. I need to stay by myself and have some time out. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't explain to him properly that I needed that time. And yeah, but he always wanted me to go with him, and it felt like because obviously he wanted the support, because obviously he was going to see his mum and he wanted the support, and he wanted us all to go as a family. So I would go along, because obviously they're my children, I want them to be happy and I want everything to work well, so I would go on. And I think that was as an example whereby the effort it took for me to try and make it so that I would have some time was far harder than just eating the jam sandwich. We got, yeah, I think that's about it. So that's kind of all I've written down there. So I feel like I've covered most of the bases of how I felt that food was something that ended up being my only way out. Obviously now my kiddies are older, it's a lot easier, so I've got more kind of ways and things to cope with. Taking sugar out of my diet has helped tremendously, because I've got more energy and I'm more calmer. Kind of eating healthier, generally giving myself more energy. It's given me a bit more confidence to say no. Going through all of that stuff that I went through has given me the tremendous confidence to say no, I'm not well now, I need some time out. I'm still incredibly guilty of doing all of it instead of, letting other people do. I mean, I'm absolutely awful at relinquishing, but luckily nowadays doesn't matter as much, but I'm still terrible at that. It's not necessarily I don't trust anyone, it's not that they won't do it as good as me, because it's not like I think I can do everything right. It's the fact that I still feel like a tremendous responsibility to manage the situation just in case it goes really wrong, and I still want to make sure that everything is going well. It makes me feel more secure if the situation is going well, so I'm a bit like micromanaging to make sure I smooth over all those little cracks that sometimes appear, in terms of, when you take your kids out, you've got to make sure you've got a drink and some tissue in case they need a wee in a bush somewhere, and all of those types of things where I feel like I have to do all of those things to make sure it all runs smoothly, and so I can be calm because everything's kind of taken care of. Yeah, London's doing pretty well, not too bad. So yeah, I think I've covered everything that I kind of wanted to say. I know it's a very niche subject, but I hope it's been of some use to others, and I would be fascinated to know what it's brought up in your memory of how you either use food or how you used to use food. I'd be fascinated to know. And if any of you have any more information to shed on the subject about kind of the reasons why we use food as a crutch, I'd be fascinated to know. All right, I'll see you guys soon. I'm gonna go and wash my hands because it's all a bit oniony now. Lots of love. Bye.